Yeah, so far we got like a 0.5%, give or take, move on the market. A 0.5% move on the market, which is not so bad. We're really in like a tight kind of flag pattern that's been setting up here under the highs. Even though the market's been sitting in a range, there's been, pockets of strength all over. As you guys have probably noticed, the small cap market has been going bajonkers here. So, what you have here is, like the IWM, that's the index for the small caps. That is, broken out to all-time highs out of really like a 2-year consolidation. So usually when you get like a multi-year kind of consolidation like this, the breakouts do tend to be powerful. So that's why you're seeing a big outperformance, in small caps. And then if you couple that with kind of like a seasonality portion of it, which is that Thanksgiving week in general is always geared towards, kind of low floater type of names. And it's always been like that. We've had this chat room since 2008, and every turkey week, it's always like this. You got to take a theme. So like this one, the theme this year is like, right, alt energy. And, you find like a half a decent chart. And somebody's going to pump this thing because the only people that are trading right now are like people like us, right? Like chat room people. So you'll start to see like a massive, all sorts of moves on these kind of names. So it's kind of fun. I don't normally trade small caps, but on Thanksgiving week, you almost kind of have to because that's just what we're getting. So one thing to just kind of be mindful of today is that you really want to think about like these kind of alternative energy type of plays. Anyone that is not up like 10 days in or 5-6 days in a row, but like is really starting its move, even if it's like a day 2, I think is going to be in play. One thing to just be mindful of is if you're kind of, like for example, we trade a lot of tech stocks and stuff, and a lot of those kind of tech, while the tech is taking a breather, you have to remember like where things are flowing, like right where the money's flowing and so on and so forth, and that seems to be in a little bit of a different name. So just kind of things to be thinking about when you are looking at this stuff. So let's take a look and see like what kind of gappers are rolling around, and then we'll kind of change this up a little bit here. So you can kind of see like right off the bat here, like you're getting all sorts of these kind of names. So hold on here, let me connect these. There we go. All right, so you're starting to see, right, like, this is like fuel tech, right? So you can say that's basically alternative energy stock. Kango, junk. Hey, so this SPI, we fucked up on this, yes, we were trading this thing yesterday. That was a day early on this bad boy. It is starting to gap out of range now. It looks like it just had like a 2-candle pop. Most likely that's, from like a chat room or something like that. You can imagine probably what kind of devious bastard is running that chat room to probably alert it in the pre-market. This thing spiked up like $6 for a few minutes. But it is like a really nice chart. I would, put that like really kind of top of the list today. If it starts to hold, some of these levels here, this is the type of week for this type of, stock to go. Like normally I wouldn't trade something like this, but this is the week where hopes and dreams are made and lives are ruined. Seen it every single year. I'll get like 2 students that are like, man, I'm about to go buy myself a fresh car. And then I'll have like 10 students that'll be like, man, I'm about to get divorced. I'm about to get divorced. So that's the nature of these things. They can move just really fast. Obviously, right, if you have 1,000 shares and you chase it up too much, you lose your shirt. But if you catch it right, then, you maybe gain a tank top out of it. So that's just the way, these things go. So I keep that on the list. Pot stocks. So it looks like, pot stocks were popping, but after hours today, they're already fading off. But I do think, you've got like some okay charts on these. My worry on this is, obviously there's some strong resistance on CGC here at 27. I'd only be interested in this, like if, I'd only be interested in this if it started to really like kind of bust over 27. If it does that, then I think it's going to have a chance These pot stocks are all looking pretty good though. So you could put ACB. ACB is a decent trader too, but you do have that 200 SMA like right there. So like if you're gonna get like a run in pot stocks, you're gonna need some work on these. You know, there's still a lot of supply that has to work itself off from these kind of previous highs, and it'll have to kind of absorb some of that before it can go. So what I do is set an alert around, 27, and I think you'll be kind of good to go. But I wouldn't be real, like if it's like kind of just meandering around at like say 26.10 or something, probably not going to be anything that's like a big priority of mine. Yeah, you see like CLNE, this is like a clean energy stock. Man, this thing, I haven't seen this thing move in like years and years and years. I used to trade this thing back when we started this chat room over here. I haven't even heard from this in like a decade. You got if you look at a weekly chart here, you got to break out from like 27. This is another one that, it's gap. If it hadn't gapped up today, then we would have probably tried to red to green this. You can't chase the gap up on these names. So you just got to be like super careful on these, like when you see them, because you can't chase these things up. So I don't think these alternative energy plays are just going to like die on the vine, but I do think they're going to be a little bit more, I guess, difficult. You may get like some kind of dump at the open, and then you'll have to see what happens. It's not going to be linear where they just like kind of go up like they did yesterday. Usually if you get like one monster like easy day, then the next day is going to be like much more tricky. So some of these names like DPW, like that were really, really hot like the last couple days, last day or two, like these are going to be infinitely more tricky today. Doesn't mean they can't be played, but like, they're going to be a little bit hotter. You can see like this MP, this is another one. This is a SPAC. SPACs have been going really, really strong. So like something like this, like it's too extended for us. So you got to kind of leave those alone. You really want to kind of focus on like day 1, day 2, even day 3 of the moves. Like see this FUBU is another one. Like this thing's $16, $30. Like what are you really going to do with it? You could still trade, like you can scalp it around, but you just can't necessarily, get it going. Some of these names like FCell here, this is like, to me, like this is a short, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. So like to me, like these are like more short type of plays. You can see Blink 182. Fuck, I was fucking around with this too around here, and I got stopped out. You can see these things are starting to really roll here. Now this thing is opening down like 8%. If it opens down into SSR triggers, then probably the short on the play is over for the day. Like it'll probably squeeze at the open, because you can't short it down on the bid at 10%, and it's already hard to borrow. So you may start to see a little bit of a squeeze on that if it opens down too much. But otherwise, if this thing starts to rail off, then FCell, butt plug, a lot of these will probably start to show some weakness. They've all got some room to fall here. Not a huge priority though. We'll take a look if the setup is there. And the reason is it is Turkey week. Turkey week is, typically, right, pumpers week. So you don't want to get too crazy in front of the shorts. I mean, we'll take a gander at it if the setup is there. But I would say, like, we do half size. That way, we're not just getting our, bungholes smoked out before Thanksgiving, right? Especially, like, if you guys are, Indians, like, you're going to be eating Chinese food and all sorts of nasty stuff on Thanksgiving. So you got to be, a little bit, so I put that one on the list. Another one, like if it has like a big squeeze today, I think one more squeeze on this PLTR. This one's looking like a short too. So like both of those I think are going to be probably top of the list for the shorts. Look, there's a lot of other good looking shorts like this SPE and stuff like that, but these are really hard traders. Like the float on this is really small. The spread is, high, and the range is almost too big. So obviously as day traders, we want to have, big ranging stocks and, bullshit like that. But sometimes there's too much range, right? where too much range causes you to do bad decisions, right? Sometimes you could see you could be in like this blink or something, and see you get a candle that's like $3-4. Well, then that's really hard to control. You can trade it, with really smaller size, but sometimes that's easier said than done. So I'd rather look at kind of PLTR and FCell. Those are a little bit thicker. They're a little bit thicker in the float, and I think that just gives you a little bit of an easier side of things. In terms of how we want to look at this. Now let's take a look and just see on the other side, there's a whole host of longs that are still setting up. If these EV companies do decide to go, or if there's a rotation into the ones that that haven't gone, then I think you're going to see some some moves on this HYLN, but we say that every day and it never fucking goes. I think you'll probably still see some upside in Nikola here. Now that you're over the 200 SMA, any kind of tap back into the 200, it's up too many days in a row. But now that you broke up over the 200 SMA, any kind of tap back into that, I think you're going to have a chance at really getting that kind of thing going. So just a couple things to be mindful of. This NNOX has a nice range break setting up here at around 45. You can see here on the hourly chart. This thing is looking pretty good. So I like NNOX for a little potential turkey run if it can hold over 45. Another one that hasn't gone yet that I think we should be watching is this PLL. One of the things I was doing when I was running my scans yesterday was trying to figure out what are these ones that had just in September really moved and maybe been sitting around right now while Turkey Week is happening. I think that this PLL, I would set an alert right around this 30 spot. If you start to see this thing start to kind of push around that area, if it starts to get close, then I think we really want to be a part of that one. So what we want to do is really find the names that are not extended, right? There's so many that have just gone crazy. So if you're trying to long those, then that's going to be really hard, right? If you're sitting there oh man, I want to participate on this SBE momentum. Well, that's going to be, it could go either way, right? So that's going to be just a lot trickier. So I'd rather you guys focus in on things that are just about to start to move. So I think this PLL looks pretty good. Only if it gets near 30 and then it starts to ORB. I'd add NNOX to that. I'd add NNOX to that around 45. Good. HYLN, as long as it holds near yesterday's highs, I think we'll be okay on this one. And then there's a whole host of these other names that I think are starting to go. This Fossil, this thing reminds me a little bit of that Tupperware, where you're Fossil, anybody, anytime you see some asshole wear a Fossil watches when I was in high school was the thing. You had a Fossil watch. Now, granted, I live in Michigan, and right, the middle, that's the middle class thing to really do. But you rolled a Fossil watch back in the day, you were a cool dude. Now, I haven't heard from Fossil in over a decade, but you're starting to have a nice kind of look here. This is probably the week forward. It reminds me of that Tupperware where remember when Tupperware was a few bucks and we're who the fuck uses Tupperware anymore, right? That's that's the 1990s sex toy party for the moms. And so nobody's heard of from Tupperware since 1996. When my mom still uses Tupperware, and now other people are using Tupperware again, it looks like. And the Fossil kind of reminds me of that, where it's you got this kind of old brand, Left for Dead, it's it's a couple bucks. And then what happens is the market just squeezes its balls off, and then everybody's coming in hot on this. So I keep an eye on this Fossil if it can get over 12. I think that one's going to have a chance too. It's not extended either. It's been consolidating for the last, 5 or 6 days. That's probably where we want to really be looking at things. Now, if tech goes, and we don't know if tech's going to go, we don't know if it's going to shape up or not. This lemonade, this thing could go any day. This thing could go anyway. If you've noticed, like a lot of these type of IPO stocks, a lot of these IPO stocks that like have kind of like rounded out a little bit, they're starting to really cook and book, you know? So what you're starting to see is like you test that level of resistance, test testing that we could curl through that thing. I think that we'll have a chance on this one too. That one's not bad. That one's got a look on it too. So what I'm trying to do here is look for plays that like haven't gone that could go, right? So that we're not just sitting there kind of chasing things. I got this Donkey Kong on watch list also, $35 stock. It's starting to trend a little bit, but we got a nice flag here over the 50 SMA. Not the sexiest of stocks here, but you can see here you got like a nice high tight flag. I think that one's going to be cooking and booking. Now on the other side of things, if we do want to play alternative energy type of names, if you're into that alternative lifestyle, nothing wrong with that. Then I think JKS, this is probably the hottest out of the solars. It hasn't gone yet. A lot of the solars have gone, but this one is ready. You're starting to test that trend line resistance here. The good thing on this one is, first of all, you know, this thing was assumed to be like some big turd pump and dump thing. And, you know, it did retrace quite a bit. But it's been absorbing like really well in that 60 spot. Like every time it comes in, right, it starts to hold and build and hold and build. And now you started yesterday, you broke over these key MAs, and now you're starting to like kind of test into some levels of resistance over here. Man, this thing is pretty hot. You know, and you can see like some of these other solars are breaking out the high. So like obviously you can't trade this EMPH, it's too extended. You know, so like what we want to do is if the solars stay hot, we go into JKS, you know, we go into SPWR, you know, some of these that have not just gone too crazy, we can roll into this. And of course, you know, the speculative solar play is this SPWI. Now it's up 43%. So you have to have a picture perfect opening range setup if you're going to trade this. Opening range setup means, right, either an ORB pattern or a quick pullback pattern. On usually something that's like this wild, I'd much rather have, you know, a pullback pattern than try to chase a breakout, just due to the fact that, you know, if you roll like 2,000 shares, you chase a breakout and it dumps on you, I mean, you're having yourself, you're just having yourself an awful day. And that's not really kind of where I want to go with these things. So just kind of be mindful of those. But SPI, I think, JKS, both look pretty good. FSLR starting to, you know, round and turn the corner too. So, you know, that can be another one. Now, this one, if you look here, is just too messy. So I didn't put this on my list because it's just too messy here. Like, if you look at it, like, when you gotta, like, when you look and you're like, whoa, like, what are these things and what are that? When it starts to look like that, I think it's just a little bit, man, it's like a little bit more tricky. Now, one battery play that looks like maybe, like it hasn't gone too crazy yet, that maybe has a chance here is this Kakalak. I think it needs to pull back here a little bit, but if you see like today, for example, like this thing kind of dumped back 21s, 22s, low 22s, you start to see it back and fill. That might be the one that actually has a chance, you know, to start to like push back through, because, you know, most likely that's probably actually a regular company. So the market is D-Raj. The market has been acting pretty well, so I wouldn't, you know, say it's bullish or bearish. Flat markets are the best to trade anyways. So like the QQQs are flat. The IWM has been trending. You're up at 1% on the gap. The SPY has been holding up too. You know, you can see here you've got a flag pattern that's developing on the S&P 500. So overall, the indexes are, I mean, they're holding. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do, and I think we'll be okay on those. Like, there's not huge amounts of, they're not trending yet. They're consolidating, but they are holding up pretty well. So I repeat, right? Let's talk about, you know, the Chinese EVs for a second. You know, these are getting long in the tooth here, but granted, I thought that yesterday. XPEV trades a lot better. XPEV trades a lot better than LI. Now, this thing is dumped like $7 at the open. I think I wouldn't discount the fact, like, it needs to pull back here. Obviously, the 9 EMA is at like 54, but if you start to see it really dump hard at the open, start thinking about like yesterday's levels of support. If you start to back and fill there, like, it's never a linear thing, right, where they just dump back all the way. But I don't think this is a priority for us today. Just due to the fact that it's up 400% in the last few days. Same thing with NIO. These things may need a little bit of a breather. NIO's not as extended as XPEV, but its float is really big, right? It's got like a billion share float. You can tell, like, when you trade NIO, it just trades really, really thick. So XPEV has always just been like a better trader. NIO's a little bit more famous, obviously, but they have almost the same damn market cap. So these are okay. I would only hit these really on like dips. Like, I wouldn't say like that's a huge priority. We daily trade these. They're more of a scalper kind of day trade kind of play at this point because the swing trade is over on them. But you're gonna need to really, you need to get like yourself a really nice location on these. This JMIA is another one that like looks fantastic, but up too many days in a row. Like, what are you supposed to do when you have a stock that's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a row? Like, do you really want to be the guy that comes in on like day 10 and like, I'm here, I'm ready? I don't know. I would stick with stocks that are just starting its move. I think it's just a lot easier. It's a little bit safer of a play. So let's kind of summarize here. We want to take down some of these battery stocks like F-Cell. We want to long some of these solar stocks. And then, we've got a handful of these stocks that are popping up, that we can, like pot stocks, that we're going to try to shred it. We'll try to shred if we start to see the setup. I think the easiest shorts out of these is probably going to be some of the ones that are a little bit thicker, like PLTR, F-Cell. But once again, be careful. This is not a good week to like lay the wood down on too many shorts. I would go half size at best. But Penn is looking okay. I think Donkey Kong looks a little bit better, but Penn moves better. So Donkey Kong looks like it's got a better chart, but Penn moves infinitely better. So that's like the trade-off, right? That we're always going to be dealing with. Hey, if you guys are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like your watch list is just too damn long, you're not the only one. I can't cut things off my watch list fast enough. That's just the nature of the game. But just be mindful. It's turkey season. 'Tis the season to go shred. Let's go have some fun today. As always, I'll be trading most of the day, doing what we do. And let's go do what we do. PSNL is a failed breakout for me at this point. If it breaks under, I'd say 26, but that's a nasty candle yesterday. Like, I wouldn't have probably held through this thing, but you do have 50 SMA here, so stops under 50 SMA. All right, let's go do what we do, which is the do. If I could turn back time, if I could find it.